Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Lane Kiffin, the Ole Miss Rebels, continue to dominate the transfer portal this time, going out, landing the number one player available in the transfer portal, former five-star defensive lineman Walter Nolen, coming over from Texas A&M. And Dill, we're back. I mean, we've been pretty much every day at this point updating Ole Miss, what they're doing in the transfer portal, and Lane Kiffin just absolutely dominating. I think he took a look at this team and what this team could be in 2024 and said, we need a couple more pieces, but this is a team that can compete for an SEC championship, can compete for a college football playoff appearance. And Lane Kiffin going to the transfer portal and making sure this team has all the weapons and all the tools they need to do so. And Walter Nolen going to be a massive help. Excited to get into Walter Nolen. And we just got to take a second to take a look at what this front seven is going to look like for Ole Miss in 2024. Because I'm going to say it right now, I don't know if I'm taking another front seven across the country over what Ole Miss is going to be having in 2024. Before we do, just want to say thank you to you guys. There has been an overwhelming amount of support from the Ole Miss fans as we've continued to update you guys in the transfer portal. We love doing it. We love talking about this program. Cannot thank you guys enough for showing love. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Hope you guys are all having a phenomenal Christmas Eve. Dale, I'm going to kick it off to you. Walter Nolen, heading to the SIP. How are we feeling?
I mean, Lane Kiffin's left no stone unturned for this championship run he's putting together.
That's right.
He pretty much took a look at every top big dog target out there. They made a push at all of them. And the fact that they landed, I mean, kind of like that guy at each position, it felt like. I mean, now you cap it off with the number one dude overall. Just unbelievable. This team is going to be so loaded. Their ability to revamp this defensive line, which was frankly pretty solid last year, but it wasn't great. You look at it now, it looks like it's going to be one of those like great units. I mean, if I'm an Ole Miss fan, I'm beyond excited because
I can't even believe
you a chance. He's opening the window.
100%. That window is wide open. And Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin, they're getting right in that window now. What I can't believe is like, okay, they land Juice Wells. They land Principal U. You knew they were in it for a guy like Tyler Barron. You knew they were in it for a guy like Walter Nolen. I said, there's no way they can swing like the four best players available in the transfer portal, right? And then they get Tyler Barron. And then they go pick up Walter Nolen on Christmas Eve. They continue to just land these big fish out of the portal. I'm putting nothing past Lane Kiffin in this Ole Miss program right now. And what I want to focus on the most is what they're doing on that defensive line. Because, again, Lane Kiffin looked at this team. You have Jackson Dart returning. You have Judkins returning. Trey Harris. You add Juice Wells. This is an offense that is going to rival on paper one of the best offenses you see in the country. What is that one position that was maybe holding Ole Miss back a little bit? You saw it happen with Georgia, and you saw when they lost on the road to Alabama, maybe that defensive line. And that group's been getting better year after year. But in order to win in 2024, I think Lane Kiffin and the staff knew we need to get dominant on that defensive line. And they go out and bring in two of the best edge rushers in the class. And then you go out and get the best interior defensive lineman in the class. Still, this front seven for Ole Miss, I mean, I put it into the caliber of Alabama and Georgia right now because the star talent that they have, it is the real deal.
I mean, how could you not? It's like, last year, it was a good unit. It was solid.
Yeah.
It was taking steps for what Ole Miss was. It wasn't a liability by any stretch of the imagination, but you didn't have that top-end kind of first-round talent. Now I think you certainly have two guys. I think Princely U and Walter Nolen for sure. I think Tyler Barron, Suntrain Perkins, if he continues his development, he might be there too. I mean, you're looking now. You have that legit type of defensive line that, I mean, people are fear. When you come in to play Ole Miss, you have to fear it. You need to adjust how you play. And you've never seen that with Ole Miss. And combining that with that offensive firepower, I just can't wait.
You take a look at this defensive line, and this is something we talk about a lot. Not only the star powers there, like the NFL draft talents there, it's a deep room too. I mean, take a look at this edge position, just really what they've done in the portal. You got Jared Ivey coming back for another year, one of the better edge rushers in the SEC. Then you go out and add the two really best available edge rushers in the country in the transfer portal, and Princely and Tyler Barron. Then you look on the inside, JJP is coming back, and then you add what I think would be the best interior defensive lineman in the country next year in Walter Nolen. It's deep, it's talented, and when we talk about the defense, it always starts up front. When you have the ability to win with 4 in the pass rush, when you have the ability to stop the run on first and second down with that defensive line, it gets so much easier to call a defense. And you have a guy like Perkins going into year 2 who's a utility guy. He's one of the best playmakers in the SEC. You get flexible with him. You're doing a lot of different things. Send him in the A-gap, sending him out the edge. This is a defense specifically in that front 7 that gives so much versatility, and Pete Golden is going to have an absolute field day using all of these weapons here.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what they do with a guy like Suntrain Perkins, frankly, because last year you saw the moments. You saw some really bright spots where he was running down those athletic quarterbacks, making some plays in the pass rush. It kind of what we almost thought with like Harold Perkins at LSU, where you can free him up 100%. To like, and eat everywhere. Now you're loaded across that front 7. I think the linebackers, that position looks really, really good as well, given what they have coming back. This is just a unit that, again, I think you can start maximizing the talent, because last year you just didn't have that. You didn't have those game wreckers. You didn't have that top end. You had a solid deep unit, but you didn't have two or maybe even 3 guys with Nolen and the 2 defensive ends they brought in who just – they change how you have to do everything. And there's a lot of versatility in that unit with guys who can, like Tyler Barron, who can rush pretty much everywhere on the line. Princely U, elite edge rusher, just that pure edge flexibility, all those traits you're looking for. This is just a scary looking unit. I mean, they look so good.
I think that's a really good point. And we spent a lot of time saying this during the season. Like, this Ole Miss front 7 in 2023 was a good group. And I think that's largely why they kind of made that step, right? And if you're an Ole Miss fan, you're just excited because the steps, right? Step. 10-2 with your only 2 losses on the road to Georgia, on the road to Bama, 2 of the top teams in the country. It looks like in 2024, you're going to take another step. Now, what you're adding on this defensive line, it was a good unit. It's going to be a great unit, and it's going to be a great unit for what you said, like the difference makers, the guys that you have to scheme around. Really exciting. And I'd even go, and we could have a whole separate episode talking about this offense and what it's going to look like. But sticking on the defensive side of the football, like, your front 7 is loaded. It's one of the best groups that you'll see across the entire country. You look at the back end, like, they're making some really good moves in the transfer portal in the back end as well. It's getting a little overshadowed because they're just got like the 3 top guys on the defensive line available in the portal. A guy like DeCamerion Richardson, there was a time where he was supposed to be a top 100 NFL draft pick. And I'll tell you this, he didn't lose those skill sets. Like, this is a long, fluid athlete that now is coming to Ole Miss. And if he can reach his potential, you're looking at an all SEC guy at that cornerback spot. And what to add is, this is a staff that's done a phenomenal job evaluating talent in the portal. Like, you go back to last year and the guys they brought in the secondary all were very good for Ole Miss. You kind of trust that even this secondary is going to be a very good group in 2024 as well, behind a dominant front 7.
And it's kind of interesting to watch. Like, I mean, an LSU team try to essentially do what Ole Miss did in that secondary, just kind of flip it right over. I mean, a lot of new faces coming in, and it just didn't gel. You kind of pointed out, like, with Ole Miss, it was very quick. They took all that talent, they got it integrated into what they were doing, and it didn't have those brutal kind of coverage busts and those horrible games where they were giving a zillion yards. It felt like, I mean, they were always making teams earn it. I was very impressed with what they did. And I think that's going to be a hard thing that not every coaching staff can do, is take a whole unit and kind of flip it over and make it run, make it smooth. And Ole Miss, they've kind of shown the ability to do that. And that almost gives even more confidence, like, what's going on this year. They're adding a lot of new faces, but you just don't really have those questions about Ole Miss integrating them into what they do, because it's just worked for it.
A proven concept. And it's like almost like Lane Kiffin's getting down the transfer portal, right? Because he was one of the earliest adopters. Like, we're going to use the transfer portal right when it became readily available. And maybe there were some growing pains. Like, you brought some guys in that didn't really click. A guy like Michael Trigg, Chris Marshall, guys who ended up leaving the program. It's almost like he's getting it down. Like, he's knowing how to attract the talent. He's knowing how to evaluate talent in the transfer portal. This staff doing a phenomenal job. Dill, before we close out, I guess I'm just going to ask you a straight up question. You got Georgia and Alabama. Are you putting Ole Miss heading into 2024 in that tier of teams that can compete not only for an SEC championship, but a college football championship as well.
I mean, if you strip away the name, it's hard to say no, because like you look again, we're talking about guys like all three of these defensive linemen that they hit on the portal. All three start at both those colleges next year. I'm convinced.
Yes.
I mean, because Georgia's defensive line obviously and dominate in any real way this year. Alabama's just going to lose a lot of guys to draft. So you're looking, I mean, they're going to be so loaded in this offense. We always have known this can compete with everybody. I think adding another offensive lineman in Jerquan Scott was huge to add some depth, because you saw
obviously adding Juice Wells as well.
100%. So it's just like this unit is so. I mean, if you take away the name, this unit's as talented as anyone in the country, and I think it's still like the question will be getting it to gel. But again, as we kind of said, Lane Kiffin, you kind of have a confidence in his ability to do that. So you have the talent, you have the kind of the track record of the coach and his ability to make it work through the portal. It's hard to say that they shouldn't be right up there with anyone.
I'll answer my own question there. Yes, that's my answer. Like, you look at the offense and specifically, where did they need to take that step? They needed to take that step in the front seven, have those difference makers. They've done that. And what I would note that I think you make a phenomenal point with is there are a lot of teams that struggle to integrate. You saw USC struggle with this, right? We took 25 plus guys in the transfer portal. Guys were leaving the program. Guys weren't panning out. I'm not happy. Ole Miss has gone through some of those growing pains. It does seem like this staff, and we've been the harshest critics at times of, hey, you can't make your roster out of the portal. You're seeing Lane Kiffin in this Ole Miss staff say, well, yeah, we can. And yeah, we had some growing pains. We're getting better at evaluating guys, evaluating the type of player, but also the person, getting them into the program and getting it to click. Like, you saw it click last year. They hit on a lot of guys in the transfer portal. You think that process is going to be even more refined now. And you look at the talent. Like, I look at this team and give them the edge at a lot of different position groups, even when comparing them to Alabama and comparing them to Georgia. This is going to sound crazy. I think I'm taking Georgia's defense or Ole Miss's defensive line over Georgia's heading into 2024. And that's saying something. And that is not me knocking Georgia. Obviously, what they do in Athens is a phenomenal job. But this is a different unit up front. And you look at this Ole Miss team, it's just checking boxes, man. Then you combine it with one of the more prolific coordinator coaches in terms of play calling and calling an offense in Lane Kiffin. A lot of boxes checked. This is, to me, a team that is going to be competing for an SEC championship, certainly a college football playoff appearance. And I think they have the top-end talent to go out and win a national championship. And who knows if Lane Kiffin's even done. So we're going to continue to update you guys again. Appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. Hope you guys all have a phenomenal Christmas Eve. Appreciate you guys rocking with us, and we'll talk to y'all later.